All right, everybody. Feel good? Yeah. Sorry you guys had to wait. It's just the way it is. You didn't have to wait long. The stream was originally, you guys remember when the stream was originally scheduled for? 11 EST. So it's actually 6-7 minutes early. It's pretty good. Yeah. All right, first things first. First things first. We like the stream, right? We're all liking the stream. Everybody's liking the stream. Even myself, we're all liking the stream. Gabagool, welcome to the Yonko. Yeah, this was quite the chapter. I got some news for you guys, but I don't know. It might kill the vibe. I don't want to kill the vibe too early. We'll kill the vibe when it's time to kill the vibe. First, everybody like the stream. Let's all like the stream first. Majenko says, am I wrong? This is supposed to be your Melee debut. Something about working tech skill on Fox? No, what? I never promised this as a Melee debut. What you talking about? I will do a Melee stream at some point. Yeah, I'm pretty on time. Yeah, I already read the chapter. Here's why I read the chapter. I read the chapter because I heard about a certain spoiler, and I knew that if that spoiler was actually true, I would have no fun reading the chapter on stream. And I'm glad I read the chapter before the stream started. Definitely glad I read the chapter before the stream started. Yeah, I just made the call. I was like, it's not worth it. Like, it's just not. I'm not gonna read the chapter, this one on stream, because of the spoiler that I heard. And then I read it, and the spoiler was in fact confirmed. I was like, maybe there's a chance that it's not true. Little too low volume. I'm getting a new mic, by the way, because this one, there's been some issues lately. Can raise it a little bit. How about that? Sheriff Lafitte says, everyone in the Revolutionary seems to withhold information about other people's loved ones for the fun of it. Robin with Sabo, Dragon with Saul. I don't think they withhold it for the fun of it. I think it's just Oda. Like, he's gonna hide that stuff, you know? It's like, he has to hide it to get the reveal for the character later on. Rafael Santos Pullman says, hi Lord, how's the baby going? Just read it. Might be my favorite chapter since the start of Wano Act 3. Cheers from Brazil as always. The Saul stuff. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This was probably, I think this is my, okay, I like it's hard to say. I can't say it's probably my least favorite chapter in One Piece, in a sense, in terms of the Saul reveal. I'd say it's probably my least favorite chapter, because before this, my least favorite chapter in One Piece was, no, I guess this wouldn't be my least favorite chapter, would it? Because my least favorite chapter before this was the fake out chapter for Pell's death. So I guess now my least favorite chapter would be the fake out chapter for Saul's death. This was just the chapter that we found out about it. So I can't blame the chapter, because the rest of the chapter was really cool, exciting stuff. It did get me, like, you know, I think that the chapter was really, really exciting to read overall. It's just that I think the reveal of Saul being alive, that just takes away so much. And it's not like, you know, I think it's not something that I want to talk. I'm not going to bitch too much about it on this stream, because the reality is that this is probably something that is better saved for a video. I'll talk about it in next Tuesday's video. I think I'll talk about it in next Tuesday's video. Wait till you find out Pedro survived. Yeah, I think it's just not something, like, I understand if everybody enjoyed the chapter, but my thoughts, I guess, on everything with Saul surviving, like, it's definitely something that's best saved for me giving a full structured video on, because it goes off on a lot of things that, okay, I think part of it is that I think that the reason that I dislike fake out deaths versus other people dislike fake out deaths are different. So for a lot of people, it's like a lot of people are happy that Saul's alive because they like Saul as a character, so it's fun that he's back. And a lot of people are like, well, it's Ice Time Capsule, right? It's called Time Capsule, therefore it's fine that he's alive. My issue is not that Oda, like, I'm not talking about some plot inconsistency here. Cool. It was called Time Capsule. I mean, there have been little side theories or whatever popping up once every few years or whatever, like, hey, what if Saul's actually alive because it's called Time Capsule and stuff? Sure. That's, like, it's not the craziest thing that Oda is saying, like, Saul's alive, because we get it. Yeah, Aokiji saved his friend. The move was a move named after something that suggests, persevering through the future, right? That's not the issue for me. For me personally, it's more so just I think that we lost a great tragic story in One Piece. I think Saul's story was, and I'll leave it at that for now. I'm really not going to expand on it further than that in this stream, because it is something pretty lengthy that I want to give my thoughts on. And the type of deaths that I personally, because like there's a lot of fake out deaths that really bother a lot of people that don't bother me that much in One Piece. But then there's certain ones like Pell, like Saul, like Pound, that really, really do bother me, because it's in terms of what's being lost. So I think we just lost, for me. Like, keep in mind, Robin's backstory, the whole thing from start to finish for me, that's my favorite backstory in One Piece. And it's probably, like, that's my go-to sad thing if I want to read something really, really sad. Like, Robin's backstory really, really, from start to finish, I consider it a masterpiece. I love reading that shit. At this point, I can't say I would ever go back and reread Robin's backstory. Why would I when the climax is basically just a lie? I don't know. Like, the emotions that I feel from Saul's death, I'm never going to feel that again rereading that scene. That's just the reality of it. Because I know it's not actually happening. It's like, I can't go back and reread Pell's shit and be like, oh, this is so sad, because it's not a real thing that's happening. So for me, it's more so what was lost here. And for me personally, if other people don't care that much, that's perfect. I'm not trying to say this is like a really terrible series ruining thing. I'm saying for me personally, I'm never going to go back and reread that backstory, basically. Obviously, when I'm reading One Piece in general, I'll be reading that backstory, but I feel like I don't know, man. I don't know if you guys get where I'm coming from, but that's just, can't really, I'm sorry to kill the hype over it, but that's just me. That's just me. JK Kane says, Rosenite coming back at this point. What? Muhammad D. Luffy, welcome to the Yonko. Sheriff Lafitte says, Bellamere might be in Arlong's dungeon for real now. Maybe. GDN says, Oda only kills characters in flashbacks. Not even, ha ha ha. Yeah, you know. OG Stampico Juice says it's still sad even if he didn't die, but it's not as sad. Like, what do you want me to, it's just, no matter how you spin it, it's not as sad. I can read Saul's death was the capper of Robin's backstory, right? It's imagine it's building. First, the island's on fire. Then Clover goes down. Then Robin loses her mom, right? Then the innocent civilian ship goes down. Everything's in flames, and then finally, Robin loses her only friend, right? And he dies laughing, giving her this last message, etc. That's the crescendo. That's the climax of Robin's backstory. So to me, that's the most important part of Robin's backstory, for me personally. Again, it's just like, when I read Pell's chapter, I don't find it sad anymore. When I go back and read that chapter, and I actually did after this, it's just, what am I supposed to feel there, you know? So for me personally, what was lost for me personally after this reveal is just like, I don't know. Again, I'm not saying Oda didn't plant an out. He did. Said Ice Time Capsule. Just I always believed that he wouldn't actually go through with that and then take away what happened with Saul. Samput Sakesh Revolprati says, is Saul's first Black Page death fake out? It's cool that Vegapunk's design is both Big Brain and Einstein. Elbaf seems confirmed now, looking forward. Yeah, Elbaf is definitely confirmed. And I like that we're getting plot threads that are kind of building everything towards Elbaf now, because a lot of us were like, we know we're going to Elbaf, but are we sure we're... No is a strong word. Do we know we're going to Elbaf? But now it seems like we gotta go there, so I'm excited. And yeah, I like Vegapunk's design. I liked a lot of parts of this. It's fine if you guys disagree. I'm explaining to you how I feel. Yeah, you guys don't have to care. It's fine. I am gonna put out a video explaining why I feel the way I do, but, you know. Soldier and Express, because that is something, like, I didn't like. No, I did like. It's a recurring thing, right? So Pound, Pell, now Saul. Like, I could have put out a video on this sort of stuff when Pound the stuff came out, but I was just like, no, it's not worth it at this point because it's something that I do really like. It is something that I do really, really care about, which is like again, Robin's backstory for me is like it's honestly it was like up. It's like the saddest section for me in the entire story. Like Oda's so good at backstories. For me personally, Robin's was always my favorite. So for me, that part of the story has a very special place in my heart. So for me, this is just something where I feel like I gotta put out a video on it, or at least how I feel about it, or why I personally didn't like it. And if you guys don't want to watch that video, you don't have to watch that video, or you can watch it and then give your own points and stuff on it. But you know. Sultan Express says this chapter introduced a plot hole. It's not even Saul. In chapter 398, the Marines and the world government found the plot important textbooks of Ohara. Why didn't the Gorosei order Spandine to confiscate or burn those textbooks? That was kind of addressed this chapter. I think Vegapunk said something along. Vegapunk and Dragon said something along the lines of like the world government must have assumed that they weren't that important or they didn't realize the value. I don't think it's a plot hole that Saul's alive because we got the time capsule, right? El California says reread it now live for the last time. Nah. Jank Tank says, Morj, while I get what you're saying, do you think Saul being alive invalidates the choice he made in that chapter and the impact it had on Robin? That's the thing. It's a situation where you could say technically it doesn't, right? Because the effect is the same, right? The effect is the same, which is that Robin's left with a good message. Saul's making a sacrifice. The effect is the same. But this is something I'll elaborate on in the upcoming video, which is just that I'm not talking about technically here, right? I'm talking about what actually makes a story a tragic story. Because what we're getting here is basically Oda having his cake and eating it too, right? So it's like, imagine how tragic it would be if all this happened and like Saul's final words were this, and Robin loses her only friend, and he leaves. I shouldn't even elaborate here. You guys get what I'm saying, I think, to a degree, but I do want to articulate it a little better in a full video scripted format. But to me, I'll just say you can now no longer call the story of Saul and Robin a tragic story. Like, it's just not a tragedy anymore, right? It's gone. We were led to believe something, but the reality is that it was more so an idea than an actual final endpoint for this character, right? We got the idea of like, well, what if there was this crazy, beautiful sacrifice and final last words and message? What if that was the case or something? But nah, they're fine. He's fine. She'll get her friends or whatever, and she'll probably even see him again some other day, right? It's no longer a tragedy, right? You had the idea of a tragedy there, but it's no longer a tragedy. And there's some other examples I'll use throughout the story, I think, in the upcoming video that'll help articulate what I mean there more. Because I think we can go around in circles all day discussing this singular example, but I think if I pull more examples of what I'm talking about here, I think what I'm trying to get across will make more sense. JCB says, didn't Robin get completely frozen and didn't die? Yeah, maybe he didn't even have... Maybe Aokiji didn't have to say a time capsule or whatever. Maybe we could have just assumed that Saul would have been fine anyway. Sheriff Lafitte says, with Saul potentially being the man marked by flames, Elbaf could be a revolutionary arc and a kid arc as well, and maybe Shanks too. Yeah, Elbaf is shaping up to be very, very important. That's pretty cool. JK Kane says, Rosinante. Yeah, correction, yep. Journal X rants his fam, it's still a tragedy, LMAO, are you high? I'm not talking about the whole incident of Ohara. The whole incident of Ohara is, of course, still a tragedy. I'm talking about the story of Saul and Robin, right? Because that's a story within a story. The dynamic that those two characters had, and essentially the character storyline of Saul, it's no longer a tragic storyline. At least not in the way that it was before. You had to go into hiding, I guess. Yaya Amara says, you think the last road poneglyph is now confirmed on Elbaf? I mean, I think that it would be really, really fitting if that's where it's at. Because we're already getting everything we're getting our direction pointed towards Elbaf as is with everything we're learning about in this chapter. So I wouldn't be surprised if last road poneglyph is on Elbaf. Soldum Express says, and why didn't Imu shoot his death ray when nobody was in the vicinity for the last double tap on Ohara? This is a super easy puzzle of easy cover-ups for the government, but they're being stupid for plot. I mean, we don't know enough about... I don't want to get into all that. We don't know enough about Im right now, like, to say for sure when or why they use certain things, like Uranus, etc. It's also possible that they're trying to hide Uranus. One thing that I've kind of chalked it up to is basically they wanted to erase Lulusia. I don't think they wanted to erase Ohara from history, right? We don't know what Im's big weapon does, but we know that with Ohara, they wanted to make it an example more than anything. Whereas with Lulusia, they're trying to erase it. So I think with Ohara, they didn't really want to, the Ohara devils, etc. They use that as a warning for what happens if you try to search too much for information. So I think that's a bit of a different case from Lulusia Kingdom, but we don't have the details yet on why Im chose to do that to Lulusia, but Buster Call Ohara. But my assumption right now is that they're not trying to hide what happened to Ohara from the world, right? My assumption right now is that they wanted Ohara, at least from what I understand, they wanted the world to hear about Ohara. And they wanted to paint Ohara's scholars as demons so as to dissuade future action. Whereas with Lulusia, I don't think they want the world to know that they have the power to eradicate an island like this. I don't know if they want the world to know what they're doing to Lulusia. Nathan H says, do you think this chapter confirms that Saul is the man marked by flames, considering he's heavily bandaged and in Ohara's knowledge? It seems likely, in my opinion. Yeah, I think that's a really good bet. I think Oda does a cool thing where it's, I think he, lots of times he plants little mysteries for us, and we get really obsessed about it, but then the answer to those mysteries aren't things that we currently know about. So we have no way, like, we'll obsess over things, and then the actual truth about it, right? Who this person they were talking about, or this location, etc. Those aren't things that we would even be aware of at this point in the story, so they're unsolvable mysteries. And then when we get to a future point in the story, when Oda gives us said location or said person or whatever, that makes it more exciting because it's finally coming full circle and solving a mystery from way back when. I mean, I guess a simple example is a lot of people believe that Wano was the ancient kingdom, right? So initially, when Clover was talking about the name of the ancient kingdom was cut off over the course of, his speech back in Ohara, right? He was cut off from saying the name of the ancient kingdom. We didn't get to hear it, right? We didn't get to hear it. The popular theory at the time was that he was going to say Laughtail, but he couldn't have said Laughtail because Laughtail was something that Roger came up with later, right? So now, in newer years, the popular theory is that the ancient kingdom that he was going to name was Wano. That Wano was going to be the name of the ancient kingdom that he was cut off from saying. But that's the cool thing, which is that Oda leaves us with that question mark of what was the name he was going to say, and we're left with that question mark for the longest time because we hadn't even heard about what we could. It's an unsolvable mystery at that point in time for us. We can try, but we can't figure it out because we hadn't heard about Wano till, a future arc, right? And then we didn't know about the significance of Wano till way, way, way down the line. Now, even if Wano is not the ancient kingdom, that's just a small example of what I'm talking about, which is that, I think Oda's just good at setting up. I think he's good at knowing how readers are going to kind of speculate about shit, So he'll set up random ass mysteries or question marks that he knows we're going to scrape all through the story to figure out the answer to. And then the answer is just going to be some shit that hasn't even shown up yet. And then some shit will show up, and then later down the line, he might connect those two things and be like, yeah, this is that. Wrench, I think people aren't getting it. Yeah, I get it. There were sad moments in. Yes, the incident of Ohara is still very, very sad. But I'm talking going back and reading it as a story, right? So if I'm reading it as a story, the climax of that story, right? The climax of that story is Saul's death. It's a buildup, right? We're getting introduced to Robin. We're learning about how bad her life, etc., is on this island. Then slowly we're getting this spiral of, okay, something really, really bad is going to happen. At the same time, she's meeting this character, befriending this character. He's becoming the only person that she can connect to in this world. The only friend that she has. He's teaching her these lessons, etc. And then this spirals into this terrible turn of events where all of this shit's happening again. Island burning down. She loses Clover. She loses her mom, who she just met. Extremely sad, right? All of the people that she knew, people of Ohara, innocent people, all of them murdered in front of her. And then the climax is losing Saul, right? That is what it all builds up to. So yes, I can read Robin's backstory and feel very sad for the vast majority of it, but the ending matters quite a bit. So once I get to the end, it's like beautiful, tragic, sad, 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 sad. Oh, Pell. Oh, we get a Pell chapter to round it out. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, you guys, if you, it's still very sad for you guys, that's great. I'm saying for me, I can't read that backstory again and be like, ever hit the same way reading it from start to finish. I just can't. I'm surprised if other people can, because for me, it's the same thing as. I mean, do you guys feel sad when you go back and read Pell's chapter? Because I personally don't. Do you guys feel sad when you go back and read Pound's chapter? Because I personally don't. So for me, I don't understand why would reading Saul's chapter ever make me sad again? Because now it's the same as those other chapters. And it just hurts because it's the climax, and I thought it was a brilliant, honestly perfect climax to this terrible series of events that was just building and building and building over the course of Robin's backstory. If you still feel sad over Saul's death, then I envy you in a way because you still get to hold on to that. I don't know how, but for me, how could I read that and feel anything? I just don't know. LD Sparaten says, imagine Ace, Bellamere, Quina, Tom, Hero Look being alive. I mean, what people are going to say is that, well, this one's technically fine because it's the Ice Time Capsule, etc. And that's just not the point to me. The point is not whether or not technically there is a reason that this character was able to survive. The point for me more so is just what is being removed from the story, and you're removing a tragedy from the story. And it was something that really hit hard and stuck with me. So I'm just sad to see it gone. Hybrid says, do you think Vegapunk is an... See, this is the thing. English 1D1 says it's still a tragic story, but it's given a solid happy ending. So what you just described is essentially not a tragedy. That is not what we call a tragic story. Once it's given a solid happy ending, the tragedy is gone. The solid happy ending that I personally thought was beautiful to me was Robin never getting to see Saul again, but Saul's message living on, his will living on through her, the idea of what he was passing on living on to her clinging to that for years and years and years, till finally it did come true. She can never see Saul again. Saul is gone. She's lost that permanently. That is tragedy, right? But she finds something new through what he taught her. She finds friends that are not going to leave her, right? She finds the Straw Hats. That's the beauty of that whole storyline to me. I just don't think it works. It's, to me, again, it's this phrase, have your cake and eat it too. You're no longer writing a tragedy and then bringing it full circle to something beautiful, right? It's a fake out, and then Robin also gets this happy ending here, and then she also gets catharsis knowing Saul's fine here. It's no longer, I just don't know how it would be, it's just not emotionally affecting to me anymore. Hybrid says, do you think Vegapunk is an innie or an outie? I think he's an outie. Sheriff Lafitte says, Vegapunk mentioned in the flashback people in the Marines who could be reasoned with, just as Oda reintroduces Smoker, Tashigi, and Sword. Yeah, because that's a big point currently, which is that the Marines are still going to be around at the end of the story. The Marines are still going to be around. Even the world government's still going to be around. We have quotes specifically from the Revolutionary Army talking about they're not trying to overthrow the world government. They want to take down the Celestial Dragons. So at the end of the day, the way the world is heading is defeat of the Celestial Dragons and then reformation of everything that already exists. At least that's what it looks like. Kalal Brown, message retracted. Fodder for Hire says, what if world government wants to invade Elbaf with the Seraphim? Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be a great showcase for the Seraphim because Elbaf is supposed to have strong characters. Supposed to. No, not sane, says Sativa or Indica. Indica. And if I don't like Sativa, honestly. And if it was in the One Piece world, how would you think our drugs will affect them? Would Blackbeard be a bath salt addict? Look, I don't know enough about hardcore drugs beyond straight, simple marijuana to say anything. So I I don't know. I think that there are certain characters that would certainly, certainly be stoners in the One Piece world. Probably are. You telling me Yuruj doesn't smoke? Eric Trolato says, for me, this adds more than it takes. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. If you prefer it this way, then, like, a lot of people probably are happier that Saul is alive. So, I personally just prefer the tragedy of his death staying in the story. That's just it. For me, again, I've said it many, many times, but for me, again, that's something that was always, like, very hard-hitting and very special to me. So I prefer that the tragedy stay. Eric, I mean, you're coming in late. You're saying the genocide of the people, not sad. You guys aren't getting it. Yes, you can have multiple sad things. I'm saying the way I view that whole story now, right? This is sad, that's sad, that's sad. A lot of it's building to the most personal moment of tragedy, which is her losing Saul, right? So obviously everything that happened in Ohara is still very sad, but it's just weird to me now reading a series of tragic events where the climax of it, again, that's what I'll keep repeating. The climax of it, the climax of that story is a Pell chapter, right? The climax of the story is basically a lie. That's what it hurts. How it finishes matters a lot to me, right? So, I mean, you're arguing in the technical sense. I'm just talking about how I'm experiencing a story, right? It's an emotional thing. It's not a technical thing. I know that the ship of civilians dying is very sad. But what if I told you that the moment that the ship of civilians died is not as sad to me as that moment that Saul died? Because just the way storytelling works, it's usually based, for most people, on watching characters build a sort of connection, right? Getting somewhat invested in that emotional connection between those characters, and then seeing a character lose that bond, or lose that relationship, right? So, I mean, I'm personally, yeah, I'm sadder when Bellamere dies than when that ship of Oharans dies, right? I'm sadder when Hiruluk dies than when that ship of Oharans dies. I'm sadder when Ovia dies than when that ship of Oharans dies, right? So, yes, you're right. Technically, sad things did happen in Ohara, and Clover's death is still sad to me. Ovia's death is still sad to me. I'm just explaining the way I'm reading that whole backstory when it's sad, 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 and it's building, and then it leads to the final, what was initially the most powerful, most poignant moment, Saul's death, when when the landing of that backstory, that's a big fake out, that's a lie, that now completely rings hollow. It's like it's no long it makes the whole story less powerful for me. It makes the whole story something that I'm not as interested in revisiting. Because even if I do revisit it, what do I do now? Do I read everything and then skip the Saul chapter? That just doesn't make sense, you know? Marcus really says, what if Saul's death and scarring changed him and he's the villain of Elbaf? Kid meets up with Saul and Elbaf is Straw Hats versus Kids Pirates / Saul. I mean, that'd be pretty crazy. But I don't know. I don't think that's the case. Sheriff Lafitte says, Saul being alive also takes away from the narrative weight and symbolism of dying with a smile and laugh, which is so essential to the D-Clan. That's a really, really, really important point. That's going in the script. Zishan Ali, thanks, appreciate it. Lady here says, didn't Saul call the Elbaf Giants barbaric, and now all of a sudden he's allowed to be their captain? So is that racial tension just completely dropped now? I don't know. Maybe there's some explanation for that. Who knows? Yeah, I don't know. Guys, let's get the likes up to 400. How about that? I understand that this is not the popular opinion. Am I not allowed to be sad that there's some part of the story that I really enjoyed that is now no longer an actual part of the story? I don't get it. He can still die with a smile when Kid kills him. I hate Sativa. That's disappointing. Sorry about that. It sucks because this was a cool chapter overall. That's the thing. I think this was a really cool chapter overall. I mean, we got to see Young Dragon. We got to see Vegapunk. Young Dragon's design is he looks more. I don't know. He looks grumpy. Like current Dragon is still kind of a grump, but he's badass. Old school Dragon looked grumpy, just like I think big Squidward energy. Sampat Sakesh Revolprati says, could Pacifista and Seraphim have override protocols implemented by Vegapunk and activated in the final war, since Vegapunk is partial to the Revs? I have no idea. I mean, people are trying to. I people are trying to explain to me that I should have felt sadder for the mom's death and Clover's death. I don't know what to say. I did find the mom moment really, really sad. I did find the mom moment really, really sad. I'm just saying, at the very least, we can definitely agree that the final dramatic tragic beat of Robin's backstory was the Saul death, right? Right? So, even if we can't agree on what was the saddest moment, I'm saying the flow of the story was such that the climax was Saul's death. If you reread that backstory, I think that that's fairly clear, right? Because I did skim back through the backstory after reading this chapter. So, I don't know. The ending matters a lot to me. I think endings just matter quite a bit to me. Not an NPC says, Morj, you're right. Scary trend going into the end game. Can't we wait to see Roger and Laughdale? Aespa comeback says, you get it, Morj. Indicator for the win. Loved Robin this chapter. I like the Robin stuff this chapter. Yeah, you know what? We'll just move past this stuff because I think I've said my piece. I'll say it in a much more structured, articulate way in the upcoming video. So you guys can watch the video if you want, I guess, my complete thoughts, because this is just me fresh off of having read it. So I'm having to basically describe why I'm kind of down about, you know, one of my favorite backstories, basically. My favorite backstory, basically, being gone from the story. I'm just having to explain it off the cuff. I don't know. Hybrid, missed your super. Okay, my bad. Hold on. We don't want to miss Hybrid super. Hold on. 1 second. Eric Trelato is saying the emotional arc for Robin is now superior in my opinion. It's your opinion. I mean, she's a happier character now. That's because she got everything, right? She gets her old friend Saul, she gets her new friends. Depends on what you prefer, basically. So I personally just preferred her having actually lost someone, but then in the wake of that loss, living by his will and his words, etc., till eventually she was able to gain something to replace him, because he was irreplaceable, but she did gain someone who's basically, you know, Saul himself is irreplaceable, but she gained someone that's basically better for her, right? Not someone, you know what I mean, the Straw Hats. People that are better for her, that will stick with her for the rest of her life. I just think I prefer storytelling that's not just character gets both good things. I think I prefer it where the loss, the message, the lesson, the eventual closure. I think I prefer that. Obviously, she's happier now, though. Let's see what I missed from Hybrid. Hybrid says, do you think Batman could solve the Kira case? It depends. Sometimes Batman's written as a really good detective. I don't know if Batman could solve the Kira case. Don't know if because, see, the thing is, I think that Kira would figure out that Batman's Bruce Wayne faster than Batman would figure out that Kira is just this random Japanese high school kid. Here's why. Not to underrate Batman, because Batman's obviously genius, etc. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like it can't be that hard to figure out that Bruce Wayne is Batman. I just don't think it can be. I think nobody in the DC world is trying hard enough, because come on. Like, fucking come. It's in Gotham City. Dude, Batman's clearly rich as shit, has access to all sorts of technology. Someone's got to be able to trace it back to Wayne Tech. I don't know. I just don't believe. I don't believe it's that hard to figure out that Batman's Bruce Wayne. So I think Kira would figure out that Batman's Bruce Wayne first, because I just think that it's dumb that nobody figures out that Batman's Bruce Wayne. Not Sane says, I must go off, but Morj, that curly bang is sexy as fuck. Yeah, I'm liking the new haircut. Big fan of the new haircut. Jolly D. Joestar says, Clover's death was more of a cool lore drop of what's world government hiding. Ovia sadness was their goodbye. Yeah, Ovia like, I don't want to underrate any other part of the backstory. I'm not saying that other parts of the backstory weren't sad. Because for me, one of the saddest moments in One Piece, period, is Robin asking, are you my mother? I've always wanted to hold your hand. That is really still fucking sad for me. 100%. 100,000%. But also, let's talk about this. It's entirely fucking possible that Ovia's alive, right? Did we see Ovia dead? Is it not entirely, like, Saul we saw frozen. The only reason that we thought he might still be alive is because it was called Ice Time Capsule. But as far as I know with Ovia, we didn't even see a body or anything, right? That's another thought. I'm gonna try not to think about that. But yeah, I'm beating a dead horse at this point. But you guys understand, for me, it's basically the story can be really good overall, but the way it finishes matters a lot to me personally. So if the climax is kind of suddenly ringing extremely hollow, it just doesn't work for me as much personally. Christian Braza says, so Saul's the man marked by flames? Yeah, maybe. Like, put it this way, if it was Clover who was still alive and the dude marked by flames, I wouldn't care that much. Like, I'd still read Robin's backstory basically as it is. Like, I wouldn't care, right? It's the fact that it's Saul, because that was the relationship that Robin's entire backstory was built around, and it was the final scene with Saul and Robin that her whole story essentially, her whole tragic backstory essentially led to. Everything else was really, really good stuff along the way. Joshua Ortiz says, can we talk about the hover boots and the potential upgrades the Strats might adopt after they potentially leave for Elbaf? I don't know. I don't know if these are permanent things, because it's just like, can you imagine Zoro fighting with hover boots? Why? That's not his style. I would love to see Frankie taking in some of these upgrades. And please, Usopp, for the love of God. I swear, Usopp's plants are a downgrade. I loved when he was more in the engineer build and used more impact dials and variety explosives and things like that. Ray Uchiha says, an advanced ancient civilization reminds me of Xanarkand from Final Fantasy X. I don't know what that is. I know what Final Fantasy is. I don't know what Xanarkand is. Jolly D. Joestar says she wanted... Okay, hold on. This is the complete part of what the message was. But Saul, who didn't stop Robin from doing... Olivia Sadness was their goodbye, but Saul, who didn't stop Robin from doing what she wanted. Saul gave Robin happiness more than Clover. Check the chapter where Saul was going to leave and look at Robin's face. Wait, what am I... I don't fully understand what you're saying here. Yeah, Saul gave Robin happiness as she was leaving. And I think that was important. Even in his death, right? Even in his death, he was able to impart this, not true happiness, but basically something that you could cling on to. And I think that was really powerful. That in this permanent goodbye, that's what he's leaving her with. Kid Clip 2K says, stop reading backstory so much, Morj. Try reading the front sometime. Felix C says, Oda basically revived Bellemere from the dead this chapter, and we still have people arguing, well, it wasn't all that bad. I think a lot of it is that the chapter is just, it's such a fucking good chapter overall. If you, because I was, like, I went into the chapter because I was reading people speculating, oh, Saul might still be alive, Saul might still be alive, in the spoiler. That's what I was seeing with people talking with the lead up to the chapter reveal. So I was just praying that it wasn't true. So then when I was actually reading the chapter, I already had this sinking feeling while reading it. But then as I was reading the chapter, I was like, fuck, this is a good chapter. I'm enjoying this chapter. This chapter is hype. And then I got to the part, I'm like, oh, it is Saul though. It is Saul. Saul's right there. It's definitely fucking Saul. Or some giant that really wanted to cosplay as Saul and put on bandages. So that's the thing. I think that, for example, if you compare to, what was it? Maybe, I think a lot of it's context. So what else is going on in the story right then? So overall, the chapter was really, really, really good and exciting. And it felt like Zoe again, right? It felt like Zoe in terms of, we didn't get any brand new reveals, but like world-changing reveals, but we got confirmation on many things, and we got the sense that we're about to get a lot of reveals, right? So the chapter was really, really good. I remember when Kinemon came back from the dead, which, by the way, I didn't think was that big of a deal comparatively. But I think part of it is because At the time that Kinemon came back from the dead, and I think Kiku came back from the dead, I think, I might be wrong, but I think that it was in one of those Wano, like, Onigashima chapters that wasn't that exciting overall. You know how Onigashima is generally a spread of basically fights and then a lot of weird sort of setup, moving pieces stuff, and then fight, like a series of fights again, and then generally a bunch of moving set. It was generally spurts of really good action followed by spurts of moving pieces and sort of setup. I believe that basically what I'm saying is spurts of what people view as hype and exciting, followed by spurts of just chapter after chapter of not that much happening. I think that the Kinemon, Kiku coming back, etc., was during a period of time where there was not that much exciting happening. I might be wrong about that, but I think it wasn't that good of a chapter as is. So people were already not too hype about stuff. And then Kinemon, Kiku came back in that chapter, so the overall sentiment was very much, what the hell, blah, 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 blah. This chapter, we get Saul's return. If you put it in a different context, let's pretend we're already at the start of an arc that everyone's really, really loving, right? I've been gushing over Egghead Island every week for the last several weeks. If you throw it into a different context of Saul being revealed around the same time, I don't know, let's pretend it's towards the end of Whole Cake Island or some shit, back when everyone was really pissed and nobody was enjoying One Piece. I love the ending of Whole Cake Island, but you know what I mean. There was a period of time people weren't that hype. People were like, let's fucking move on to Wano. We're tired of this Big Mom chase and everything. If you throw into one of those chapters, Big Mom's talking about some shit like, my wedding cake, it's just like, I want it as bad as I want to kill those giants from Elbaf. You know who's one of the giants from Elbaf? Saul. I don't like that guy. He's still alive, and he was at Ohara. Imagine something like that was dropped towards the end of Whole Cake Island. I think people would be furious. But because it's being dropped in the context of a chapter where we get Dragon, Vegapunk, real Vegapunk, all this cool lore stuff, it feels like it flows in a certain way that nobody's going to say anything, right? We were actually hyped that we get to see Saul again, or at least a lot of people are. You know what I'm saying? No, I've never said Saul being alive is a plot hole. Please don't put any words in my mouth. I really don't think it's a plot hole. It's not at all. Kid Clip 2K says, nah, Whole Cake was fire. No, I liked Whole Cake. You guys know I liked Whole Cake. I put out a whole ass video talking about why I thought Whole Cake was underrated. I'm just saying a lot of people didn't like Whole Cake. So a lot of times what happens, how it's received, depends on how everything else going around is kind of being received, you know? Chrome Dome 420 says, bro, still going on about Saul. I mean, it's what you guys. I have to respond to what the people are asking me about. Chat's not on screen. What's going on with that? It should be working. Did I do something bad again? It should be working. Man. All right, let me try removing and adding it again. All right, we can talk about something else. Somebody bring up something else. Literally everybody's talking about this. There's that. What else are you guys talking about? People are literally talking about the show Better Call Saul. Maze asks, did you see film Red? Excellent change of topic. I didn't see film Red. I can't comment on it. Elijah McFarland says, so is Oda... This is what I'm talking about. I'm responding to the things I'm being given to work with. Elijah McFarland says, so is Oda going to retcon Saul being from Elbaf even though he's supposed to be from the South Blue? I mean, it's possible he just went to Elbaf afterwards because he... Here's my... Okay, if we have to theory craft a little bit on the fly, I would say Saul may have... Because he's in hiding from the world government, right? So when you're in hiding from the world government, you probably do at that point go to Elbaf, a land of giants that is essentially going to shield you from the world government. As far as we understand, the world government doesn't have much jurisdiction over Elbaf. It kind of falls under the Zou Wano territory of things, right? So in that case, I think it makes sense that Saul would resort to Elbaf in a time of need. Hybrid says Red is basically Uta film One Piece character. Vegapunk is Bishay says, good to see Vegapunk as a combination of both Einstein and Newton. Is that what that is? Is that what that is? You're right. I didn't think. I'm dumb. I didn't realize the Apple thing was that. That's so cool. Because those are the two big guys, right? I don't know that much about I don't know much about science history, but as far as I know, Newton and Einstein, those are kind of the two smartest peoples ever, right? What about, I'm gonna throw out some names to show off my knowledge. Copernicus, Galileo, he gave us the telescope. Sagittarius, that's actually an astrological sign. I don't think that one counts. Copernicus, Galileo, Kepler, Archimedes. That's all I got. So those are basically, I think those are the Yonko. Hold on. Kepler. What did I say? I said some shit. Kepler, Archimedes, Copernicus, Galileo. Those are like the Yonko from the old school days, right? And then there was Newton, who came up at some point, so maybe Newton's like Roger. The Pythagorean theorem guy. Don't know where he falls in. Maybe he's like Shiki. And then Einstein came in and he's Luffy, right? Because he's our new age guy. And then we don't have anybody for the modern age, right? I think that's the correct ranking. Lord Naga Viper says, taking a break from the Saul discourse, how do you think Vegapunk knew Dragon? I don't know if we're going to get that deep into their lore. I think it's cool enough that we got confirmation that they just knew each other at that point in time. Khalil Brown says, if Vegapunk upgrades Frankie, I don't know how he would end up stronger than a Seraphim. I don't even know how we scale Seraphims at this point. Are they all the same? I don't know. Sheriff Laffy says, missed some supers after Lady Hero Super, I think. Oh, shit, I'm sorry. Hold on. Where are we at? I missed. Okay, sorry, you're right. Sampat Sakesh Revolprati said, to me, fake deaths undermine the stakes in the series, a point I've come to terms with in One Piece. DBZ also suffered with this and killed stakes. Yeah, I mean, that's a horse that we've all beaten to death at this point, right? I mean, there's a reason that we still joke, maybe Pedro's alive. Sheriff Laffy also, I missed this, sorry about that. Join us, Chad, Nami backstory enjoyers instead. Nami's backstory is actually my second favorite backstory in One Piece. Then comes Chopper. So those are my big three: Robin, Nami, Chopper. You're right. I didn't. Not Sane says Yuruj got that good stuff. Yeah, Yuruj. Why do you think Yuruj's been out of the story for so long? He's just been high. He's literally on a cloud. Last we saw him. Sampat Sakesh Revolpati, sorry again for missing this. Could Pacifista and Seraphim have override protocols implemented by Vegapunk and activated in the final war, since Vegapunk is partial to the Revs? I think it's definitely possible, but at the same time, it would make things too OP for the good guys' side, right? Because I was so thankful that the Seraphim showed up just so that the world government looks more stacked heading into the final war. Because we've already got Luffy, Kid, Law, all these Supernova crews, Yonko crew, all these allies, Wano, Zoe, Dressrosa, the Fishman people, probably the Giants, probably fucking Marco, the Revolutionaries. Everybody's gonna be piling on the world government. The world government is looking like it's gonna get fucking jumped by a lot of people. So I was thankful that the Seraphim showed up to kind of give it some more security and add some more top tier threats or high level threats at the very least. But if those are just gonna get flipped on the world government themselves, that I have no idea what to say. Those guys, they need to, they should just give up at this point. Not an NPC says, oh no, we covered this. Okay, I think we're all caught up there. Yeah. Sorry about missing those. Well, I was off on my tangents. And thanks, Sheriff, for shouting those guys out. Not an NPC says, Morj, watch film Red if you want to see Bluno have more dialogue than every stride but Luffy. Bluno gets dialogue in that movie? Bluno barely got dialogue in the real actual story. That's funny. Also, the way they animated Shanks' face, he looked like he shouldn't be allowed within 100 feet of school. I've seen clips of film Red. I don't know. I think Shanks, the things he's done at least are badass in those clips. Don't remember the face. Ray Uchiha says, can we talk about how Clover was repeatedly detained by the Marines? Yeah, no, I like that's the thing. I love this chapter overall. I love the little Clover insights that we're getting and everything like that. I love the Clover insights. It just makes him such a fun character for no reason. It's a One Piece esque thing that he just happened to be wild back in his younger days. Samput Sakesh Revoltputty says, I love that Vegapunk could have literally cut his brain into 7 parts to create others. It's up there with Centaur and Pegasus gags of Oda. Your favorite gags? I mean, my favorite gag, there's a lot of, okay, you're talking about the Pegasus gag, which I thought was a really funny gag. I'm going back to Frankie's initial Centaur transformation, which we only got twice in the series, and then never again. I would love to see the Centaur transformation come back. Frankie has a lot of good gags. The docking, obviously, would love to see that happen again at some point in the series. But I think my all-time favorite gag is still Duval. Because y'all don't know, if you guys are new One Piece fans, y'all don't know, Duval showing up, it led to so many theories. We were all trying to figure out. Because I took a mini break from One Piece and I came back during the Duval bit. So I got to theorize as much as everybody else. Who the fuck is this Duval character? How does he know the Straw Hats? Everyone's pouring through the series. Arlong was a suspect. Jin was a suspect, even though it made no sense. We had so many suspects. It's just Saji's bounty poster and the entire scene of Saji. Everybody having their reactions, kind of accepting, I see, okay, it all makes sense now. 2 peas in a pod. Saji will leave this to you. This is your trouble. And Saji just swimming all the way over there and kicking Duval in the face. Just making it furious that he's the victim there. That is to date, I think, my favorite bit from One Piece. There's so much funny stuff. Crocus, their initial meeting with Crocus, him giving them his blood type and everything. I don't know. There's funny bits this chapter. I think I thought it was funny when Luffy's yelling this different stuff at the robot. Robonosuke, Robonosuke, Robo King, and then it actually seemingly works for a moment. Seemingly, it doesn't actually, but for a moment, for a moment I was thinking, oh shit, did Robo King work? Mark Ross says Socrates equals Joy Boy. Yeah, you guys are getting it. Who else was there? Plato. I should know that stuff better because I took philosophy courses and shit in college, but old school, I mix up the order of those guys. It's been years. Hybrid says, Film Red was mid-cool ending, but basically a movie about a character no one asked for. Well, she's canon now, so we all gotta live with her. Also, where do you think Dragon is most ticklish on his body? That's a weird question, but probably the sides. Isn't that the same for everybody? Hugo says, I don't mind Saul being alive since he's been dead for like 15 years. Yeah, compared to other deaths that got reversed by the end of the arc, Oda let it marinate. Yeah, but that almost makes me more upset because it's just kind of, for me, it's kind of, okay, so for example, if Saul was revealed to be alive by the end of Enies Lobby, I think people would feel some kind of way. Like, a lot of people would be upset about it. But I think Oda he knew he could get away with it if he waited long enough. And most people are cool with Saul being back, you know? Which, just because I'm not, doesn't change the fact that most people are. So, you let it wait long enough, you can bring Ace back. You can bring whoever back. I don't know. Lord Naga Viper says, do you think Vegapunk will reveal what he read in the books, or do you think he will get killed or faked out at this point, thus requiring the Strahds to get the answers at Elbaf? So the full answers have to be found at Laugh-Tale, right? Don't the full answers have to be found at Laugh-Tale? I feel as though, as much as I think that this is another case where we're going to get, how do I say this? Whenever we I think it'll be close to a Rayleigh situation where we'll get a lot of the gaps filled in. Some of it will be left to be found out. Similar to Zoe, we get a lot of new gaps filled in, but some of it's being left to be found out. I think that that's where we're headed. So I think we are going to get some answers, but not a crazy amount of answers, if that makes sense. Let me try and fix this chat box thing real quick. Wait, I should answer something at the same time. Hold on. K-Nerb says, no, not Ace and Whitebeard. That'd be terrible. But that's how I felt about Saul. I don't know. That's how I felt about Saul. Mark Ross says, Sabo living lessened Ace's death a bit. It did. for me, but I've learned to love Sabo as a character. Not love, he's not one of my favorite characters, but I've learned to appreciate him as a character and look forward to what he's going to bring to the table still. Young Gnosis says, would you rather get this whole arc at once or read week to week? I would. Here's the thing about One Piece. The killer thing about One Piece, I would be happy to always read it week to week. The killer thing is the breaks. Because it really, in theory, it's not that much, right? In theory, it's just once every, you get 3 straight weeks of chapters. Once every 4 weeks, you miss a chapter. In theory, it's not that much, but it feels like it happens all the fucking time. I don't know, man. It feels like that's I don't know. It's psychological or whatever, right? It just feels as though the breaks happen a lot. I know that, or there's just some bullshit random thing like, oh, this week Shonen Jump's not happening, or this week is Golden Week. We don't know what Golden Week is here over in the West, so the Golden Week one pisses me off especially, because I'm just like, y'all are just making up shit to not put out chapters at this point. Sheriff Laffy says, does Saul being alive change how you see Aokiji? No, because it doesn't change much, right? Because I did talk about this recently in my recent video. I think Saul saving Robin is a much bigger deal than saving Saul. Sorry, Aokiji saving Robin is a much bigger deal than saving Saul, right? Because here Robin is a target, right? A target that he was assigned to kill, Scholar for Ohara, etc. I guess he was also supposed to take out Saul if Saul interfered, but you know, Saul is a character that he had an emotional connection with. It's his friend. I think it's a bigger deal to save a stranger, right? To make an exception to save a stranger, particularly when you're supposed to kill by your whole job is predicated on you killing this person. So him sparing Robin, that is a more noble deed than sparing Saul. Saul's already his friend. I think that's, in terms of hierarchy of good things Aokiji did on Ohara, I'd still think saving Robin is the bigger deal. Him saving Saul fits in character with what we kind of already thought he might do, right? But in terms of a noble thing to do, saving Robin is still the bigger deal than saving the person that he was already buddy-buddy with and a friend, colleague, etc. You know, it's just my point of view. Wait, the chat box. I was trying to fix the chat box. Hybrid says, do you think Fujitora will be Fleet Admiral? I did. Yeah, that's like the whole video that came out. Yep. Noor Ganji says, hey Max, love the content. Hope the shoulder is okay. All right. Thanks. The shoulder is actually pretty good now. Shoulder's in pretty good shape. Guys, let's get the likes to 600. Let's get the likes to 600. All right, let me try adding chat box again. Sorry about the chat box situation. It's been getting more and more spotty recently. I don't know why. Antonio Avolo says, Roger moved the library to Laughtail. Oh, that'd be a dick move on Roger's part. He's just like, nobody's getting a sneak peek. That's for sure. The library is really, really interesting, though, because so it seems like here we're going to get a big lore drop. Then Elbaf, we're going to get a big, juicy lore drop. But none of that's going to compare to the gigantic lore drop we're getting at Laughtail. So it's really cool that we've got 3 islands in a row, it seems, set up to give us huge, huge reveals back to back to back. Fuck, I don't even know how to add this. Oh, wait, I found it. All right. Hopefully it works. Please work. Chat box. I haven't restarted my computer in a bit. I'll try restarting and hopefully the chat box works next stream. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm excited for more Vegapunk. Vegapunk's a fun character. I want to see more Vegapunk. That's for sure. Virgil Hawkins says, congrats on the 900k views on the Marine Ford vid. You know what's funny? Whenever I drop an analysis video, like a big one, they always do really, really bad at first. And then over time, they accumulate. You guys don't understand. When I dropped the Marine Ford video, it did terrible at first. So I was just... It's like, why'd I waste so much of my life on this video? It's an hour long. No one's watching it. And then I check it 2 months later, and it's one of my better viewed videos. And now it's, I think, my most viewed video. So I think analysis videos, it just takes time to accumulate. So I've learned my lesson on that. Same thing happened with Ennis Lobby. I remember I dropped it, did terrible. I was just fuck, why'd I make this one? Then over time, it just gets more views. Arsa Mohan says you're coping on the law haze. I assume you mean law hate. I haven't said shit about law this stream. I think I said something good about law this stream. What did I say? I said something good about. Who remembers what I said about law? I said something good about law. I don't remember what I said. Yeah, it's an hour-long video, so it takes a while. Trust her. I'm trying to avoid any Saul questions right now. So if it's got Saul in the word, I'm just not gonna say anything. Do we have any interesting theories coming out of this chapter? Any interesting ideas? Because this chapter confirmed some things, but I'm not seeing any like crazy speculations or anything coming out of it. The will of P is no more. I'm trying to avoid talking about Saul. We're done talking about Saul. Some puts the Kish Revolpati says, it's great we got a timeline for the Revs formation. There's a lot of things I liked about this chapter. In my chapter review tomorrow, you'll actually find me very positive. I'm going to keep Saul discussion for a separate video. There's so many things I liked about the chapter. One of those things was, like Samput is saying, the timeline for the Revs formation. It's still before Luffy's birth. Will we see his mom? Are you excited for the year-end chapter reveal? So that's one thing I really, really liked is just the sense of consistency in that we see the triggers now, right? So we saw Dragon, Ivankov, Bartolomeo Kuma, etc. at the Gray Terminal, right? We saw them at Luffy's island. Dragon did not say hi to his kid, even though he most definitely knew that Luffy was there. So I like getting the context. I just like tracing everything, right? So we find out when the Revolutionary Army was started. We find out that Ohara was the spark for that, which is really, really cool because Ohara felt like such a monumental event when we first learned about it. And then at the end of that Enies Lobby arc, we also learned that the Revolutionary Army exists. So it's cool that those two things, one was actually one actually was formed as a consequence of the other. So that happened. Then we see the Revolutionary Army in its early days at the Gray Terminal. But at that point, Dragon's talking about how he doesn't have enough power yet to accomplish what he wants. Then we see at the Reverie flashback, the two reveries prior to the current Reverie, right, in Drum Kingdom. I believe it's two reveries prior to the current Reverie. We see the world, the important figures of the world gathered at the round table talking about this upcomer, Dragon, and how he's going to be a big deal soon. So we're tracking kind of Dragon's progress through the world. And then finally we get to the modern day story at Enies Lobby where we are hearing, post Enies Lobby where we are hearing that Dragon is now the most wanted criminal in the world. That shit's cool to me. Am I excited for the year-end chapter reveal? I don't know. I don't think One Piece chapters have been consistently... because it's coming around every year. I get excited. I'm like, I wonder what chapter Oda's going to end the year with, and then sometimes it's just a fucking normal-ass chapter. I think that's happened twice now. I don't remember what last year's was. I remember there was one year, though, I was really excited. I was thinking, what's Oda going to end the year with as a chapter? And it was just the fucking chapter that introduced Hiyori or Orochi or something like that. It's a very straightforward chapter. Nothing really happened. Sheriff Laffy says, what do you think the freedom fighters were? What do I think the freedom fighters were? I just viewed it as, I assumed it was like prototype version of Revolutionary Army. ATMZ97 says, why didn't Dragon tell Robin about the library in Elbaf? It's just One Piece, man. It's just, they just won't communicate to each other like that. It's just the way it is. Sometimes I'm pleasantly surprised when when a character, I forget, there was some point recently in One Piece where somebody was aware, I don't know how to explain this. One of the newer Straw Hats turned out to have already known something that one of the older Straw Hats seemed to have told them off screen or something. It's really hard to explain. It's really, really hard to explain. I guess maybe a random older example is like Frankie knowing that the Mary was able to fly into the sky, and that's why he designed the coup de burst, right? It's just rare. Hybrid says, excited for Dofi Seraphim. I'm very excited for the rest of the Seraphim because The big question mark for me is still, are they getting different versions? So is Doflamingo getting an artificial Ito Ito no Mi? Is he getting an artificial string fruit? Or do we get to see a mix-up with Doflamingo getting a different fruit? That would be pretty cool. AZ fan says Frankie knowing Sabo. I forget. It was something recent. Something recent where a Straw Hat just knew something that I normally would not expect them to know because they must have heard about it from the other crew members. I forget what it was. Thomas Musgrave says Dragon Fruit predictions, Awaken Logia. I think I'm on board with what everybody else has been saying for a while now, which is that Dragon has the Wind Logia, because we haven't seen the Wind Logia yet. We're pretty much at the end of what Logias are left. I think the Rock Logia. I expect we get some sort of a Rock Logia, but a Rock Logia would be underwhelming at this point because we already saw Pika and we know how that shit goes. A stone, maybe some sort of a Stone Logia. I don't know. But aside from that, all we got is Wind. We're kind of running out of elements, right? Sheriff Laffy says, crazy theory. Vegapunk is Perispera's father. That is a crazy theory. I don't know if that's the case. I miss the old days when we thought that Katakuri would be Kaido and Big Mom's kid. And then instead we got Yamato. I think that Katakuri would be a dope kid for Kaido and Big Mom. Although now that we know more about Kaido and Big Mom's relationship, it does seem weird to think they would never bang. Now we know more. This was pre-Wano when we knew that those two had a prior dynamic, but we didn't know what the details were. But now that we know more about them, it's like, that wouldn't make sense. Zoltan says, how would you feel about something more tragic happening with Saul now that he's back? I mean, how am I supposed to believe it? Jack Mihoff says, Kid is the main villain of Elbaf because Saul is the man marked by flames. I think it would be great if Elbaf would be some sort of a three-way Davy backfight. If we could arrange that. So we get Elbaf, sorry, not Elbaf. We get Shanks in there. We get Kid in there. We get Luffy in there. What if we got Blackbeard in there too? Some people have mentioned Blackbeard and Elbaf, but it's hard for me to believe, but it would be really, really cool. Yeah, Kaido is like her younger brother. Kaido's like her kid. Ken3210 says, you're the best One Piece YouTuber in English. Thanks, I appreciate it. He says, keep up your good work, love from Japan. So he says it in English. I appreciate the... Because that means that he definitely likes Uteron better than me, right? Which is perfectly fine. It's just... the qualifier there is funny for me. Andrew R says, Morj, what got spoiled for you and how? Saul's survival got spoiled for me. So here's the thing about me and spoilers. I've been getting more lax with getting getting spoiled, because usually all you have to do is kind of mute things. But I will say this too, the spoilers, when they're coming out, it's earlier in the last few months, right? The timeline has been moving up, and a lot of times people don't tag. A lot of times people just don't tag it nowadays, so it's harder for you to mute things, you know? Bitey McGar says, thoughts on a possible Longhead tribe. There was Fukurokuju, Wano Ninja Guy, and now Vegapunk. That's an interesting idea. A Longhead tribe. I like that. I mean, we've got so much of this shit already. Long arms, long legs, long head. It'd be really funny if in One Piece there's just like some island out there has like a big dick tribe, the long dick tribe, right? It's Oda. That's definitely something that exists somewhere in One Piece. He just hasn't written it in the story yet. There's just an island out there called the Big Dick Tribe. And then there's also probably the Big Titty Tribe, but that tribe was so successful that it spread across the entire globe, and that's why all One Piece women actually originate from that tribe, right? As far as we can tell, they're all from that tribe. Tom says ZKK is now KKS. Kid kills Saul. Wait, why are we jumping on this? Kid's gotta kill Saul now? Come on, Kid's not gonna kill Saul. Edwin Law says, did you go back and see the Jolly Roger for the Space Pirates? It looks like Vegapunk's head with crossbones. This is the type of stuff I'm looking for from you guys. That's juicy. You guys are right. Vegapunk is from space. I kind of remember that being a theory for a while back. There's also the theory that, okay, you know who else might potentially have a giant, long-ass head? Right? All of these fuckers from space. That's where we're heading. Space Piece. Kaguya 2.0. I'm just kidding. You guys know I love him. I put out like 3 videos on it. There's like a little streak where I just put out videos on him back to back to back because it was just a weird timing thing, because first I put out a video on him just why I'm excited for him. Then I put out like a qualifying video explaining why I think Im was well set up in the story. And then we actually got a really big Im chapter, and I was like, fuck, well, now I have to put out another video on Im because I want to talk more about this shit. So it was just a weird streak of me being obsessed with Im. But yeah, the space parts, there's so much stuff. So much stuff. This chapter was so good for lore. That's the thing. It was a really good chapter overall. Gamer Gunverse says Vega has warp powers. Saul didn't look for Robin. Yeah, the space-time comment that he made at the end, I am curious. I don't know if he has warp powers because it's something that he fucked up. So I don't know. I feel like it's more so an experiment that he's running with. I wonder if they're unlocking fast travel in One Piece. I wonder if they're about to unlock fast travel. What if we see the Strahds and... Wait a second. Did the Strahds get warped to Elbaf? Because what if it's like Kid is already at Elbaf? Strahds need to fast travel to Elbaf so they get warped there. I don't know. I like the navigation part. I hope that warping doesn't become a thing. I like them having... Because then at that point, Nami's just out of a job, isn't she? Saul didn't look for Robin, you're saying? Yeah. I mean, the explanation is just that Saul probably had to be very undercover. Gentle Savage says, what if the reveal about the Ancient Kingdom in 1064 is based on the conspiracy theories about the Tartarian Empire and Antikytek? John Levy has good videos on this. Now you're talking about some shit I don't know about. What's the Tartarian Empire? What's the... What is that? Who's John Levy? John Levi. You make the jeans? El California says, the Paracas skulls in the real world were probably the inspiration for Oda. Check them out, brother. Now I'm being linked to all this other stuff. Okay. Paracas skulls. Let's look this up. Strange elongated skulls. I have heard of this. You know what? I've seen so many images of this stuff, but it's always in like a weird context, like people saying like aliens exist and stuff like that, and these are proof of aliens. I don't know how I feel about that. I'll have to do my research later. Tartarian Empire. Okay, I can't be looking into all of this just yet. Looks like a big ass empire though. Is it real, or is this like a mythical thing that people are talking about? Okay, okay, I don't know about that. Bitey McGar says, that was my first super chat. Feels special, haha. Yeah. I'm happy I was your first. Gentle Savage says, what if the reveal about the Ancient Kingdom in 1064 is based on the... No, we covered this one. This was one that confused me in the first place. Okay. Virgil Hawkins says Saul had amnesia. Then how do you remember to go get those books? Naderade says Vega cut his brain into 6 and put them in the others. Yeah, that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like for sure. Definitely looks like that. I'm loving Vegapunk as a concept. I'm a big fan of Vegapunk so far. It's Tony Santana says there's no way Vegapunk and Fukurokuju are related. I mean, so that was brought up a little earlier. Vegapunk, Fukurokuju, the space pirates, there's something going on there. The Palaka skulls, the real world. Virgil Hawkins is asking, Morj, where do you think Weevil's place will be in the future of the story? And what's the major event triggered by the Grand Fleet? I thought that the major event triggered by the Grand Fleet would be something Reverie related because there were so many of them there, but it didn't happen. Weevil is the single most confusing character to me in the story. I don't know how he fits. I don't know how he fits at all. I think that there could be something there that ends up tying him to Yamato and Yamato's storyline. That's the only thing I got. Because it just feels like there's a degree of similarity in what they're both going through in terms of their identity crisis, and Weevil taking after Whitebeard, Yamato taking after Odin. I think that there's something cool that could happen there between Yamato and Weevil. That's all I got for the character. James Sylvester says, how do you cut up your brain and not die? It's One Piece, man. It's One Piece. He's Vegapunk's smart as fuck. It's One Piece. Weevil is a failed Seraphim. Flame Emperor says Weevil is a Seraphim. Frigid says Weevil is a failed Seraphim. That'd be really interesting. Be very, very interesting. A proto-Seraphim. But the thing is that the world government seems confused as to his origins because Kizaru didn't seem to know what was up with him. So it would be outside of Kizaru's knowledge, which doesn't seem likely to me. Are Moria and Vegapunk related? I don't think so. Moria is part of the Oni squad, whatever that is. I don't think Seraphim using Haki. Let's find out if Gustavo just asked, "Do you think Seraphim could use Conqueror's Haki?" I think let's find out if Seraphim can use Haki. Period. You know, I don't know if they can use Haki. Wait. Am I stupid? Was Jinbei using Haki? I kind of forgot. Was the Jinbei Seraphim using Haki? Can someone confirm or deny? I don't remember him a panel of him using Haki. Someone confirm or deny. Was the Jinbei Seraphim using Haki? Kizaru, DeBilaro at least says Kizaru probably does not know Kainu's fleet admiral. Dude is always high. Yeah, I would. Kizaru's probably still wondering where the fuck Sengoku went. John Smith says maybe Bakken was part of Mads and left to do her own thing like Judge. I don't know who the fuck led Bakken on Mads, because that Bakken does not seem like the brightest. No Haki, right? No Haki. Loud Waffle says, as robots, they shouldn't have the willpower to use Haki. But are they robots, though? Are they robots? They're androids, right? Someone came in called Mrs. Morj. Mrs. Morj says, Morj, honey, you need to call me back. I haven't seen that before, Mrs. Morj. That's a creative new one. I will say this. This has reminded me to get my Twitter checkmark. Maybe I'll do it today. Do you want those check marks? Do you want that check mark? That's for sure. Matt McGrath says should be able to. They won't be able to compete without Haki. The thing is though that we can tell that they're already really fucking strong. You know, maybe it's just some sort of genetic engineering equivalent of Haki level strength. But then they wouldn't be able to fight Logias and things like that, so it's a weird gray area. And the crazy thing is that the Mihawk Seraphim, which we now understand is not in its fully evolved mature form, as we can kind of guess from last chapter's kind of dialogue, that the Seraphim are still maturing. The Mihawk Seraphim was able to cut a mountain. The Mihawk Seraphim low-key has the largest scale cutting feat I think we've seen in the series. Am I wrong on that? Law also cut a mountain range. Let's say largest scale cutting feat we've seen without Devil Fruit. Yeah, without Devil Fruit, right? So it doesn't really make sense that they'd be able to do that without Haki. Tom says, Morj, please go on a law rant. No, the law rants are done. We've said enough about law. You know what? I've made my peace with law. Peace treaty with law. You know what? He's strong. He's very, very strong. He's a strong pirate. He's a strong pirate. He's a good character. That's the thing. I don't think I've ever said that Law's a bad character. I think I've never said that Law's a bad character because Law's not a bad character. Law's a cool character. Law's a cool character. If I could take the part of me that was biased out, you know, the part of me that just didn't like him being inserted in the story and stealing the show for like fucking 5 years or some shit, 150 chapters without taking his breaks all the time. It's just the Trafalgar Law series. Triggered myself again. How did I do this? How did I do this? All right. So if I take my bias part of my mind out, right? Law's a cool character. I can see an alternate world where I really like Law as a character. Who remembers when Law was my logo? Who remembers the days when Law was my logo? Who remembers that? Who remembers that? That was a weird time, huh? Omarua says it's suspect that after Sentomaru's promotion in the Marines, they chose not to provide Vegapunk with a new bodyguard. Sentomaru was his bodyguard. That's true, but is that just because the Seraphim are around? So it's just like Vegapunk doesn't need a bodyguard at this point. He's got the Seraphim. You know what? That actually it low key used to trigger me slightly because I didn't like remember I didn't like Law, but I had Law as my logo. So lots of times people would come in and comments, streams, etc. They would assume that Law is my favorite character, and that would low key trigger me more because they're like, "Oh, you must really like Law. Law is your favorite character. Law, Morj is like people would even say back then. People assume Morj is a huge Law fan, which makes you makes you more upset." Hybrid says your top 5 NBA players, like who I think is the best in the NBA right now. From what I've watched, I think it's pretty much pretty clean. I think it's just Giannis, Luka. I think Steph is actually still playing like a top 5 player for sure. It's just the Warriors are ass. Giannis, Luka, Steph. It's just hard after that because it's just like could Embiid be top 5 or is he just not trying? You know, because he's not playing like top 5, but is that just because he's slacking because he's pissy right now? I don't know. Durant's still putting up really good numbers. Am I just overlooking him because his team's not doing well? You know, it's hard to say because there's lots of players that Jokic I kind of want to give a nod to. I think Jokic is top 4, top 3. It's just hard. It's really hard to rank the top 5 right now because I feel like a lot of players are not. A lot of the players I view as the best players are just not on good teams, so it's hard to fairly evaluate them. It's hard. Josh Fair, and I think some players might just be a little checked out at the moment. Josh Fair says, "Hey Morj, never donated before. Thanks. I appreciate being your first donation, but wanted to say I love your streams. I appreciate that. Ever since Atika no streamer has been the same, but yours are really enjoyable. I really appreciate you saying that because you know Atika's like we all know, right? Atika's real like that. That's a even you mentioning Atika basically, and then saying that you enjoy my streams now. That means quite a bit. Prophet Glutton says Law is to Oda what Sasuke is to Kishimoto. I don't know. I think Oda definitely really likes Law as a character. And what's interesting is that One Piece. Here's the thing that's interesting. One Piece did not have that archetype. You see that Sasuke archetype of character very very commonly throughout many series, particularly many shonen. Right. One Piece did not have that archetype of character until Law, and that's a fun archetype of character to have and to write. So it makes a lot of sense why it's actually kind of crazy if you think about it, right? One Piece has gone on for so long, right? It was 500 chapters in when Law was introduced. 500 chapters in. None of this is anti-Law. This is actually just me thinking, right? About how this character sort of developed. So One Piece 500, yeah, that's pretty crazy. 500 chapters, so many characters, gigantic main cast of characters, right? 10-person main cast of characters, I guess 9 going into the time skip, right? Really high main cast of characters, so many outside peripheral characters, tertiary characters, secondary characters, right? You didn't have an archetype. You didn't have that, you know, if we say that Kid fits that sort of Vegeta archetype, right? Just shittier. We didn't have that sort of Sasuke-esque figure, right? Till we had Trafalgar Law. That's pretty interesting because it's just such a commonplace thing in so many series. And it sounds as though Oda himself didn't know, at least from interviews. I never know how serious Oda is being in interviews. I never know how much he's actually letting on, how much he's actually playing, things like that. But it sounds as though Law was just a late game invention by him, and he really wasn't certain how important Law would be in the story. He must have planned from the beginning Law to be part of the Doflamingo arc, obviously because of the symbols and the ties there with Law's Jolly Roger, etc. But you know, I wonder if Oda really thought about how much of an impact or how much fun he would have writing that character, and how much he would choose to actually just have that character just be a mainstay of the series, you know? So I don't know. That's just interesting to think about because it seems like in Oda's original roster of characters, he didn't have something like that in mind. But then once he started writing that Sasuke-esque figure, I don't want to. I'm not trying to pigeonhole Law into being a Sasuke character, right? But I'm just saying that general. You guys know the type of anime character I'm talking about when I'm talking about that, right? The type of anime character I'm talking about, right? Every series has it. My Hero, Jujutsu, um, Chainsaw Man, etc. We know the guy that we're talking about here, right? So Oda finally wrote his in, and he seemed to have loved it. That's pretty cool. Anime Dimension says chapter 1054, page 18, Sabo Flame Emperor panel. We can see Shimotsuki logo in one of the banners. I think Queena's father related to the revolutionaries. Queena's father's related to the revolutionaries. Oh, that'll be interesting. Yeah, I thought that if there was anything, I believe that if there was anything really big that Oda still wanted to reveal about Quina and her father, it would have been revealed in Wano, but yeah, there might still be some stuff there. I mean, we know that Dragon stopped at Koshiro's place, right? Post Great Terminal. Leo Recto says, who had better portrayal, Dio, Kira, or Crocodile? Better portrayal. I don't even know what that means, to be honest. Better portrayal. Like, who's a better villain? Who you enjoy? I'm gonna say this. I think that I personally don't think Dio is. This isn't to knock. Like, for me, in terms of JoJo villains, I know that Dio is the most iconic villain, but he's not one of my favorite villains in JoJo's. I think JoJo's has some really, really cool, really great villains, right? I won't spoil, but I'll say I love Part 7's villain. I really like Part 7's villain is probably I think Part 7's villain is the best villain in JoJo by most standards. Part 8's villain is my favorite villain in JoJo's, which is a weird thing to say because I know a lot of people don't love Part 8's villain. I love Part 8's villain. Even though there's not a tremendous amount going for him, I just love the character concept and what he can do and kind of the effect that he had on the story. Even if it wasn't as well set up maybe as some people would have liked. And I don't like Part 8 that much in general. I've come to look back at it more fondly now. Anyway, bottom line being, I don't think that I've never thought that Dio's that good of a villain. And that's not me being like, I just think that JoJo's has way better villains. I don't even think Kira's that good of a villain. So I'm going to go Crocodile here. Although that's just because I think that JoJo has better villains. I think that JoJo's got some. I think Part 7's villain is a phenomenal villain. Hybrid says your personal top 5 doesn't have to be the best at the moment. My favorite top 5, my favorite players in the NBA right now. That's easy. LeBron, Steph, Luka. Luka really got me on his bandwagon last year. I wasn't a Luka fan before this last year. LeBron, Steph, Luka. Honestly, Giannis. And then probably I was a big Anthony Edwards fan, but he's kind of letting me down at the moment. Like, Zion. Zion's one of the players that I really want to see succeed this year. Andrew McCarthy says, kid backstory, why didn't we get this in Wano? Maybe it's being saved for Elbaf or something like that. Maybe it's being saved for Elbaf. My whole thing with Kid is that I would have loved if Kid didn't get... I would have loved if... I don't think Kid... I think I would have preferred if Oda didn't try to write a backstory, or not a backstory, a character arc for Kid in Wano. You know, Kid had a bit of a character arc in Wano, but it was just such a weirdly done character arc where I feel like we skipped the important parts of it. I would have loved if, like, Wano was just an introductory arc for Kid, and we didn't need to get a character arc for him out of it, you know? I guess kind of like Law and Punk Hazard. It could have just been a cool arc to introduce us to Kid, and Kid could have still gotten his same fights and things like that without having tried to force in this character development for him, in my opinion. Because I don't think the character development hit at all. And I think it was, I don't know, it left a lot to be desired, I guess. So, and I also don't think we need a Kid backstory. I am disappointed. It seems like we missed out on a really juicy one that was in his SBS. Maybe he has another backstory, but maybe we don't need a backstory for him. I just hope that the next time we see him, there's a better character arc in store for him than what we got in Wano. South says, I saw Joyboy post on Twitter with a theory saying Weevil is a prototype / failed Seraphim of Whitebeard. That's why he thinks it's his father. Oh, that's why we're getting all these You guys should have just said it was Joy Boy's idea. Should have just said it's Joy Boy's idea. Because I see multiple people saying, oh, maybe Weevil's a Seraphim of a Seraphim or something like that. I'm like, oh, interesting. All these people have the same idea. No, you guys took it from Joy Boy. Give Joy Boy the credit. Thank you, Sauce, for mentioning that. Tom says tier list of all your past and present theories. In terms of how much I liked them, I'll put Raid Fail at S tier. In terms of how true they came, it goes in F tier or whatever. Tier list of my I don't know how to do that. Because it's like, is it my favorite stuff or just stuff that I got correct? Because contrary to popular belief, I have gotten stuff correct. Because if we're just going by correctness, then it kind of plays out pretty straightforward. If it goes by stuff that I really had fun making, or I really felt like there was a compelling argument for, or I feel like still might come true, then it gets tricky. Tuna Sub says, Hiai the best version of the Sasuke type, no cap. I don't think Hiai is even... No, Hiai is the Sasuke type. For me, the whole way Yu Yu Hakusho ended up makes it... I feel like we missed out on the ending of Hiai's story, you know? John Smith says, Joy Boy got it from Reddit, don't worry. Yeah, it's always from somewhere, I guess. Ace but Comeback says it's a common idea. Okay, never mind. Sorry then. Sorry for accusing you guys falsely of taking from Joy Boy. We'll never do so again. I will always believe that your ideas are your ideas. My bad. All right, guys, I'm going to call the stream in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. John Smith says Hiai. I don't know how to pronounce it. I've never said this word before. I've never said Hiai in my life before to a real person. You got to cut me some slack there. Sneaky says Sasuke is a Hiai type. Something to think about there. All right, Mrs. Morj is now starting to weird me out. Kamu says Aki is the best Sasuke type. I don't think so. Like, look, I love Chainsaw Man as much as the next person, but it's just like, I don't think there's, that much weight to... Like, Aki's a solid character. That's it. Yeah, Dresser says Aki is one of the weakest important Chainsaw Man characters, though. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. Omaru says the manga gave Hiai a great ending, wasn't in the anime. I read the manga. What I'm remembering is basically a scene with him and Mukuro. I might be mispronouncing the name. It is Mukuro, right? Mukuro, yeah. There was a good scene with him and Mukuro. I remember that. I don't remember if I felt like his character was all wrapped there. Mr. Chad Rodriguez says, Morj, before you leave, world government leaving them books in that lake or body of water didn't make sense. Thoughts? It depends what the soldiers were ordered to do. I don't know, man. Because there's like a full scene in the flashback of the world of like the scholars. Let me look at this. The scholars like throwing the books in there, believing that this would help preserve some of the knowledge. So I think Oda is following through on that, saying that that was a good idea by them. Trying to remember. I just saw this flashback, but I wasn't thinking about the books necessarily. Yeah, that's something I gotta check later. Virgil Hawkins says, how do you pronounce everything so wrong? I don't know. You know what's funny? I literally don't know. I think lots of times... What's crazy is I think that there's anytime there's a new word, especially if it's not an English word, especially if it's some Japanese anime word, if there's a new word, I'm always very confident in how I'm pronouncing it, and it's always extremely wrong. And then people in chat just tell me, why do you... I used to say Parmesia, and then I think I learned it's Paramecia, but in my mind, it's always going to be Parmesia, you know? Virgil Hawkins says, Morj, when is your mystery Chainsaw Man video coming out? The goal is the 29th. It just got bumped like 50 times because of life. Parsa Mahan says, at least answer me once, you law hater. Okay, what do I have to answer? What am I missing here? Parsa Mahan says, I know he is hungry. Who's hungry? Me? Parsa Mahan says, okay, this is all this is what he was waiting on the edge of his seat for me to answer. Parsa Mahan says, guys, ask him what he's gonna eat. You know you can ask me that, right? I'm not gonna eat anything. It's pretty late. I already ate my food. I already ate dinner. Yeah, if you guys all are surprised by the Parmesia thing, if you go back and watch like old ass videos, I say Parmesia shamelessly because I don't talk about One Piece in real life with most people. Now I do, and now like I've collabed with enough YouTubers and stuff. But for the longest time, it's just who else am I saying this word with? Parmesia in my head. That's what it looks like to me. Tom says, Morj, what are your thoughts on the new Hunter x Hunter chapters? All right, we're gonna call the stream after this next question from JK Kane. So last super, guys, no more supers. And Hunter x Hunter, I'm letting some chapters accumulate. I'm gonna binge them. For me, the current Hunter x Hunter arc is really, really good. Really, I love it. I fucking love the current Hunter x Hunter arc. It's a mystery arc. Generally, with mystery, I like letting stuff accumulate a little bit and then getting to binge it, especially with mysteries. Jake Kid Spicken says, no, he can't. You never answer him. That's a good point. That's what he was complaining about. J.K. Kane says, does LeVar Ball have Conqueror's Haki? Okay, I guess that's the question that we're ending with. He had something. I don't know if it's Conqueror's Haki, but he had something because he did manage to get... His sons would have made the NBA anyway. Take LeVar Ball's level of influence for what you will. Maybe he pushed them to work harder. Who knows? Okay. Loud Waffle says, Morj, can you try pronouncing chameleon? Yeah, that's easy. Chameleon. Like, I can pronounce words that I know. I'm talking about new ass words. You know, new words, especially anime words that I haven't seen before. That's all I'm saying. Okay. We're gonna call it a stream here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And yeah, I'll talk to you all later. Peace.